The island nobody expected. If you pulled up a map today and zoomed in on Britain, it wouldn't exactly scream world domination. Just a small, rainy island off the coast of Europe. No massive landmass, no endless resources, no obvious reason it should have ever ruled half the planet. And yet, it did. A century ago, Britain wasn't just another country. It was everywhere, from icy North Atlantic rocks to tropical islands, desert ports to jungle rivers. British flags flew across a quarter of Earth's land. Back then, people joked the sun never set on the British Empire because somewhere it was always daytime under British rule. So how did that even happen? The answer didn't start with an empire. It started with ambition, ships, and a serious hunger to control trade. Chapter 2. Before there was Britain. Long before anyone called it Great Britain, the real power player in the British Isles was England. England had something its neighbours didn't. A strong economy, a growing navy, and rulers who understood one thing very clearly. Money moves the world. Wales was slowly absorbed. Ireland was pushed, pressured, and partially controlled. Scotland, though, Scotland fought back hard. For centuries, they refused to bow, holding their independence through grit and steel. While Europe was busy fighting land wars, England was thinking bigger, overseas bigger. By the late 1500s, English sailors were already roaming the oceans, poking around places other European powers hadn't fully locked down yet. Chapter 3. Dreamers, Pirates, and Lost Colonies. Queen Elizabeth. I didn't just rule a kingdom. She backed a vision. She handed out exploration licenses like business deals. Men like Drake and Frobisher sailed off, claiming lands in England's name. But claiming land and keeping it? Two very different things. England's first real attempt at colonization in North America, Roanoke, straight up vanished. No bodies, no answers. Just gone. But England didn't quit. Instead, it leveled up. Elizabeth approved something smarter. Joint stock companies. Basically, early corporations. Investors pooled money, took risks, and split profits. If it worked, everyone got rich. If it failed, at least the crown didn't eat the loss. That move changed everything. Chapter 4. Business before borders. Two companies became monsters. One handled trade with the Middle East. The other would go on to control much of Asia. These weren't just merchants. They had private armies, forts, ships' power. When Elizabeth died, her throne passed to James, who ruled both England and Scotland. Same king, different kingdoms, but now they were playing the overseas game together. Colonies were built under different systems. Some ruled directly by the crown, some run like corporations, others handed to individuals chasing profit. Not all of them worked. Many failed. But the ones that survived became blueprints for global control. Chapter 5. Ireland. The test run before America. Before India, there was Ireland. England planted settlers, changed land ownership, and reshaped society in Ulster. It was organized, intentional, and ruthless. This wasn't random expansion. It was a system. And the people who ran this experiment later carried the same playbook across the Atlantic. Chapter 6. The ocean became a highway. By the 1600s, England was everywhere. North America, Caribbean sugar islands, African trading posts, Asian ports. Ships moved goods non-stop. Sugar, tobacco, spices, silver, and people. The transatlantic slave trade became a brutal engine of profit. England didn't invent it, but it mastered it. Meanwhile, Scotland tried to jump into colonization on its own and crashed hard. Chapter 7. Scotland's Gamble and the Union. Scotland's big colonial gamble failed so badly it nearly wrecked the country. Money vanished. Investors were ruined. The economy tanked. That disaster pushed Scotland toward a hard truth. Join England's empire, or get left behind. In 1707, the two kingdoms merged into Great Britain. From that moment on, the empire stopped being English. It became British. Chapter 8. War built the empire. The 1700s were basically one long global fight. Britain clashed with France and Spain everywhere. Europe, America, India, the Caribbean. Victories stacked up, territories changed hands. Britain kept winning because it owned the seas. Naval power wasn't just military muscle. It was economic dominance. Control the oceans, control trade, control wealth. Control wealth, control the world. Chapter 9. India changed everything. Then came India. What started as trade slowly turned into rule. Local rulers fell, rivals were crushed. Armies marched under company banners. India wasn't just another colony, it was the jackpot. Money, manpower, raw materials. The crown eventually stepped in, taking direct control. India became the backbone of the empire. Chapter 10. Losing America. Leveling up. Ironically, Britain's first massive loss made it stronger elsewhere. The American colonies rebelled over taxes and rights. Britain fought. Britain lost. America walked away. Instead of collapsing, Britain pivoted. Australia, Africa.Asia, the Pacific. The empire didn't shrink, it shifted. Chapter 11. The peak of power. By the late 1800s, Britain was the global boss. Railways across continents, telegraph cables connecting colonies, red dots on every map. Its navy ruled the seas. Its currency ruled markets. Britain wasn't just an empire, it was the system. Chapter 12. Cracks in the crown. 2 world wars changed the math. Fighting saved the world, but broke Britain. Money dried up. Colonies demanded freedom. Independence movements exploded. One by one, nations walked away. Not violently. Not suddenly, but permanently. Chapter 13. The end without a fall. The empire didn't collapse in flames. It faded. The final handover came in 1997 when Hong Kong returned to China. That moment felt symbolic. The era was over. Chapter 14. What still remains. Today, the empire lives on in quieter ways. Language laws, borders, culture. Modern Britain is a mix of everything it once ruled. The empire is gone, but its shadow is everywhere. A small island that once ran the world and changed it forever. Chapter 15. The empire that ran on steam. By the early 1800s, Britain wasn't just flexing military muscle. It was running on steam, steel, and straight-up industrial firepower. Factories roared day and night. Ships were bigger, faster, deadlier. Railways stitched together cities and ports. While other empires still leaned on tradition, Britain leaned on machines. This wasn't accidental. The Industrial Revolution gave Britain something no empire before it had ever possessed. Mass production at scale. Weapons, uniforms, ships, tools. Everything could be built faster than anyone else could respond. And when you combine that with the world's most powerful navy, yeah, that's how you lock in global dominance. Chapter 16. Policing the planet. Britain didn't just conquer territory, it enforced order. Or at least its version of order. Piracy? Crushed. Rival trade routes? Blockaded. Unfriendly governments? Pressured or replaced. British warships became floating law enforcement. Wherever trade was threatened, the Royal Navy showed up, cannons ready. This is where Britain earned its unofficial title, the world's policeman. Not because everyone loved it, but because nobody could stop it. Chapter 17. Africa. Lines on a map. For centuries, Africa had been mostly out of reach for European empires. The coast was known, the interior was deadly. That changed in the 19th century. With better medicine, rifles, and steam-powered transport, Britain and other European powers rushed in. What followed was the scramble for Africa, and it was ruthless. Borders weren't drawn by cultures or tribes. They were drawn by rulers, sitting thousands of miles away with rulers and ink. Britain grabbed huge chunks of Eastern and Southern Africa, not because it needed them immediately, but because it couldn't let anyone else have them. Empire wasn't always about profit. Sometimes it was about denying rivals. Chapter 18. India. Rule by paper and force. India was never ruled by brute force alone. Britain ruled it through paperwork, bureaucracy, and fear. Local princes stayed in power, as long as they obeyed. Railways were built, not just for development, but to move troops faster. Education systems trained administrators loyal to the crown. English law replaced local systems. English became the language of power. And beneath it all was the unspoken threat. Rebel, and the army comes. When rebellion finally exploded in 1857, It shook the empire to its core. Chapter 19. Rebellion and Reset. The uprising wasn't small. It was massive, bloody, and terrifying for British officials. For the first time, Britain realized something uncomfortable. A private company had no business ruling a subcontinent. When the dust settled, the East India Company was dissolved. India came under direct crown rule. The empire didn't weaken, it restructured. And from that moment on, Britain treated India not as a business, but as the heart of the empire. Chapter 20. The sun never set, but it did drain. Running a global empire wasn't cheap. Troops had to be paid, ships maintained, administrators funded, infrastructure built, revolts crushed. Every victory came with a bill. Britain could afford it, for a while, because trade kept flowing and rivals stayed weak. But history doesn't stay still, and by the early 20th century, new powers were rising. Chapter 21. The Dominions want to say. Britain's white settler colonies, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, were growing fast. They weren't struggling colonies. They were rich, stable societies. And they didn't want to be ordered around anymore. Instead of fighting them, Britain adapted. These territories became dominions, self-governing, loyal, but increasingly independent. It was a smart move. Empire through partnership beats empire through force until war breaks out. Chapter 22. The First World War shook everything. When World War I erupted, Britain leaned hard on the empire. Men from India, Africa, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand fought and died in a European war. They paid the price in blood, and afterward they asked a dangerous question. If we fight like equals, why aren't we treated like equals? Britain won the war, but it lost something more important. The illusion of permanence. Chapter 23. Peak empire, empty tank. On paper, the empire was bigger than ever after World War I. In reality, Britain was exhausted. Debt piled up. The economy slowed. Independence movements grew louder. Ireland broke away. India demanded freedom. Africa stirred. The empire had reached its maximum size, but it was running on fumes. Chapter 24. A second war. A final straw. World War II finished the job. Britain survived, but barely. Cities were bombed. Industry strained, money gone. After 1945, there was no strength left to hold an empire together. And for the first time in centuries, Britain let go. Chapter 25. The Wind of Change. Independence didn't come overnight. It came country by country, year by year. India, Africa.Asia, the Caribbean. The empire didn't explode, it unraveled. Britain traded control for diplomacy, influence for memory. The empire was over. Chapter 26. What an empire leaves behind borders. Languages.conflicts. Laws. Some nations prospered, others struggled. The legacy wasn't clean, but it was permanent. You can still hear it today, in accents, courtrooms, and classrooms across the world. Chapter 27. The island that changed history. Britain started as a small island nobody feared. It ended as an empire nobody could forget, not because it lasted forever, but because it reshaped the world in ways that still echo today. Chapter 28. The day the flags came down. Empires don't usually end quietly. They burn, collapse, get torn apart. The British Empire didn't. It exhaled. After World War II, one British flag after another came down, not because Britain was defeated on the battlefield, but because it was broke, exhausted, and out of time. Independence negotiations replaced gunboats, ceremonies replaced invasions. Governors packed bags instead of calling in troops. It was the end of an era, but not the end of influence. Chapter 29. Freedom came with a receipt. Independence sounded clean on paper. In reality, it was messy. New nations inherited borders drawn by foreigners, economies designed for extraction, and governments built to serve an empire, not a people. Some countries adapted fast. Others spiraled into coups, civil wars, and economic chaos. Freedom came, but it didn't come with instructions. Chapter 30. India walks away. When India finally broke free, it sent shockwaves across the globe. Not because Britain lost territory, but because it lost authority. If the largest, richest colony could walk away, anyone could. Partition followed. Violence exploded. Millions were displaced. The empire didn't pull the trigger, but it loaded the gun decades earlier. Chapter 31. Africa finds its voice across Africa. The same story played out again and again. New flags, new leaders, old problems. Britain exited fast, sometimes too fast, leaving behind fragile states with deep divisions. Some nations stabilized, others became battlegrounds for Cold War politics. The empire was gone, but the consequences stayed. Chapter 32. The Commonwealth Move. Britain made one final smart play. Instead of cutting ties completely, it offered a loose alliance. The Commonwealth. Former colonies could be independent, but still connected. Politically, culturally, symbolically. No armies, no governors, just influence without control. It wasn't an empire anymore. It was something quieter and smarter. Chapter 33. The last symbols of power. Even after decolonization, pieces of the empire lingered. Tiny islands, remote territories, strategic ports. 14 overseas territories still remain under British control today. They're not signs of dominance, but reminders of what once was. Ghosts on the map. Chapter 34. The final handover. In 1997, the world watched Britain return Hong Kong to China. No war, no resistance, just signatures and silence. That moment felt like the full stop at the end of a very long sentence. The empire was officially history. Chapter 35. An empire without a map. Today, Britain doesn't rule the world, but it shaped it. The English language became global. Legal systems mirrored British law. Sports, education, bureaucracy, everywhere you look, echoes remain. Influence replaced ownership, culture replaced control. Chapter 36. The irony of modern Britain. Modern Britain is multicultural, multilingual, and global. People from former colonies now live on the same island that once ruled them. History came full circle. The empire went out into the world, and the world came back. Chapter 37. Power always expires. The British Empire lasted longer than most, but it proved one universal rule. No power is permanent. Empires rise because of opportunity. They fall because the world changes. Britain mastered its moment. Then the moment moved on. Chapter 38. The lesson history leaves us. The story of the British Empire isn't about glory or guilt alone. It's about ambition, adaptation, consequences. A small island showed what was possible and what it costs. Chapter 39. The end of the sun never setting. The sun finally set. Not in fire, not in defeat, but in time. And history turned the page. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and comment.